Now they are actually working on a plan to block out the sun, Michael Snyder reports. What are they thinking? Without enough sunlight, life on this planet would not be able to survive for long. So when global leaders start talking about blocking out the sun or re-engineering the atmosphere, quote unquote, we should all get really, really nervous. Plants need sunlight in order to grow. So less sunlight would mean less food for all of us. And considering the fact that we are already in the early stages of a horrifying global food crisis, growing enough food should be a very high priority. Unfortunately, the globalists see things very differently. They're apparently willing to implement extremely risky measures in a desperate attempt to get temperatures back into range that they consider to be normal. The following comes from a Bloomberg article entitled EU looks into blocking out the sun as climate efforts falter. The European Union will join an international effort to assess whether large-scale interventions such as deflecting the sun's rays or changing the Earth's weather patterns are viable options for fighting climate change. The bloc will announce a framework Wednesday for assessing the security implications of a rapidly warming planet, such as the potential for scarce water or food to trigger conflict and migration, according to a draft document seen by Bloomberg. Part of that assessment includes studying the potential dangers of re-engineering the atmosphere. This is madness. Blocking out the sun is not going to solve anything. In fact, it would have the potential to create far bigger problems than we are facing now. But the globalists are desperate, even though they have been imposing the unthinkable mandates on their populations. Carbon emissions just are not going down fast enough to meet their goals. For example, the Dutch government is actually forcing thousands of farmers to turn over their farms. The Dutch government is planning to purchase and then close down up to 3,000 farms in an effort to comply with the European Union environmental mandate to slash emissions, according to the reports. Farmers in the Netherlands will be offered well over the worth of their farm in an effort to take up the offer voluntarily, the Telegraph reports. The country is attempting to reduce its nitrogen pollution that will make the purchases, if not enough farmers, accept buyouts. There's no better offer coming, Christian van der Wal, nitrogen minister, told the Dutch parliament on Friday. Shutting down thousands of farms in the midst of the worst global food crisis in modern history is literally an insane thing to do. But they're doing it anyway. And the government of Canada is considering similar measures. Canada is supposed to reduce carbon emissions from fertilizer by 30% by 2030, and so the government is looking at ways to impose draconian production reductions on farmers. Production losses could be significant, according to an analysis commissioned by Fertilizer Canada. Canada could lose over 160 million metric tons of canola, corn, and spring wheat between 2023 and 2030 due to the plan, according to the report. That's nearly double Canada's expected grain production this season. Agriculture emissions have soared in recent decades as farmers apply more fertilizer to increase output. Emissions from crop soils rose 87% to about 7.6 metric tons of carbon dioxide over 3 decades through 2020, according to the latest data from Environment and Climate Change Canada. I can't even begin to describe how stupid this is. We need more food and not less. Here in the United States, the USDA has made fighting climate change their number one priority. The following comes from Doug Casey. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has about 100,000 employees. It's one of the many U.S. government departments that should be abolished. If any of these 100,000 employees actually know anything about agriculture or farming, most of them don't. They should go out and do it, as opposed to making the lives of farmers miserable. Interestingly, the number one mission of the USDA, stated on its website, is to combat climate change, not to improve food production. The USDA, the EPA, and many others create regulations on everything and anything that farmers do today. I'd point out that according to the USDA rules, a farm is any piece of land that produces over or can produce over $1,000 worth of product. That's an unbelievably low amount. A garden in your backyard can be deemed a farm if it suits the authorities. I feel so sorry for our farmers. They shouldn't have to put up with this. Sadly, the zealotry of the climate change cult seems to get more extreme with each passing year. In New York City, officials are actually planning to crack down on restaurants that use pizza ovens that are powered by coal and wood. Historic Big Apple pizza joints could be forced to dish out mounds of dough under a proposed city edict targeting pollutant-spewing coal and wood fire ovens, the Post learned. The New York City Department of Environmental Protection has drafted new rules that would order eateries using the decades-old baking method to slice carbon emissions by up to 75%. If you have had pizzas that are cooked in real flames, which are delicious, of course, by the way, you know how incredibly delicious they are. But if authorities in New York City have their way, New Yorkers will soon be deprived of such pleasure. We live in a world that's literally going insane. We aren't going to make enough food for everyone in the world this year, and the outlook for the future is even worse. Our leaders know that global famine is coming, but they seem absolutely determined to make it even worse. During this upcoming holiday, take some time to enjoy our sun while you still can. If the globalists have it their way, it won't be too long before the sun is much dimmer and much less sunlight is reaching our planet, which means summers won't be that much of summers anymore. This is by Michael Snyder. He says about the author. My name is Michael, and my brand new book entitled End Times is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 6 other books that are available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, commissions earned. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing. And one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short, and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I've also started a brand new Substack newsletter, and I encourage you to subscribe so that you won't miss any of my articles. I have published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News. And the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and researchers should consult licensed professionals before making legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media on Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely a great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. And this is by Michael Snyder on the Economic Collapse blog. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.